this is Faith at Faith and Books. How are you doing? I'm going to do 3 things. A quick update on what I'm reading. I'm going to talk about the plans for my Theology book club for 2025. And I'm going to attach a little vlog I did of a walk I took at a local botanical gardens. So that's like going to be, I think it's about 7 minutes long. And it was nice because yesterday was Veterans Day and I had the time. I should have been cleaning my house, but instead I just took myself on a walk without the dog, because walks with my dog are often stressful because he's a beagle and he wants to hunt every squirrel, rabbit. If he smells a fox, we have so many fox around here, he goes crazy. And, he growls at the deer. And anytime he sees any other person or dog, he wants to jump all over them. And he's very afraid of garbage trucks, school buses, any big UPS vans. So it's a constant struggle with him. So it was so nice to go on a nice long walk, a relaxing long walk yesterday. Anyway, so let me get started with the update on what I'm reading. So let's see, I didn't really put these things in any particular order. I'm feeling a little bit bogged down. It's been a very, very good reading year for me. I have read more books this year than I think I've ever read in my life in one year. And so it was my best reading year in terms of numbers, but I feel like I'm flagging, like it's the end of the year. And these are all books that I genuinely want to read, but I just am getting tired, I think. I'm just getting tired. Anyway, I am reading this. This is the Theology Book Club, Compassion and Conviction. It really looks like just Christy Lewis and I are doing this read, although occasionally someone else joins in. And this is such a wise, good book. It has really helped during this election season, and it just has so many pithy words of wisdom that really balance things out and take away all the mess that we're in with the polarization and everything. It's really a really, really good book to read. I'm so glad I'm reading it. This is my 3rd time reading it. I just finished it, except I have the closing paragraph to read. And I wanted to finish it before Thanksgiving. I've been very uneven about putting the questions up on the Discord site. So I'm gonna rectify that. I've been really thrown off kilter because my youngest sister, who has Down syndrome, and she's completely, she's nonverbal. She cannot take care of herself. And she lives in a home, and I'm one of her legal guardians, and I just happen to be available the most these last 2 weeks when she'd been hospitalized for aspiration pneumonia and sepsis. And she went into the hospital 2 Mondays ago and was released Wednesday evening. And then the following Monday, she got sick again and was in again until Thursday afternoon. But she's home now. She didn't go in. I was waiting for a call on Monday to say they had taken her to the emergency room, but no. So anyway, so that really threw things off, because I each time I wound up spending the night in the hospital, the first night, just because she's nonverbal, so they don't know anything about her. And then so I got very little sleep, like maybe 2 hours, and then I had to keep going in to visit to make sure that, you have to advocate for her, because as well-intentioned as everybody is, they don't know her, right? And they don't understand the situation. And so anyway, so that really threw everything off. I'm still kind of recovering a little bit from it. I'm just tired. Anyway, so I read this and I'm pretty much done with it. And this is a very good read. I'm enjoying that. I am still working my way through The Lord, which is also a Theology Book Club pick. And this was probably not the right book to pick for beginning the Theology Book Club, because it's a chunker. We've been reading a part a month. And it turns out that I'm just not jiving with this particular theologian. Romano Guardini, who actually was more German than Italian. And he's very influential 20th century Catholic theologian, but I think these are his meditations on the life of Christ. I think it would serve me better if I read his philosophy and the other things that he really influenced John Paul II and Benedict with, rather than this book. But this one is the one that's apparently easiest to get in English. So there's somebody in the Theology Book Club who's an expert on Romano Guardini. He had never read this, but he'd read his philosophy, and he's just is completely amazed and full of admiration for him, whereas that is not my response to this book. I'm getting something out of it. It's not a complete loss, and I'm glad to have said that I'll have read this. And because of the way I'm pacing it, it's not too hard. It's just a part a month, so I just have to read for November and then December, and then I'll have finished the whole thing. But I do not think this was the best choice to begin the Theology Club, because people lost their enthusiasm for it. And so anyway, that's an ongoing thing, and I'm just going to finish it. Oh, there's a stink bug right here. Oh my gosh, do you guys have stink bugs? We have them. Here, let me pause this. Okay, sorry about that. I had to go flush the stink bug. I learned a long time ago you don't crush them because they smell horrible. They smell like rotting cilantro. It's gross. But they're like an invasive species that are really bad around here. Anyway, okay, so I did 2 books. Let's see, what else? So let me tell you a book that I'm really, really enjoying, that I'm in the middle of, and it's The Ballad of the White Horse by G.K. Chesterton. I think last time I talked about this, I think it's been over 10 days since I made a video, so it's just been a crazy time. But I called it The White Horse, and I said, well, I'm not sure it's a ballad. Well, it is a ballad. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's the story of King Alfred, but it's got a lot of Christian undertones in it. And it's just beautiful, beautiful writing. I hope that I have time to just focus on this to make a video just on this when I'm finished with it. But I am thoroughly, thoroughly enjoying reading this. And G.K. Chesterton just has such a lyrical, really deep style. Just really, really am enjoying this very much. And then I was going to read The Lamb's Supper for my church's book club. They're meeting November 14th. There's no way I'm going to be done with it in time. So I'm just not going to bother to try to make it to November 14th, but I still want to read it. I've read 3 chapters, or no, I'm up to chapter 3. So I read the first 2 chapters, but it's just been crazy. When I was in the hospital, I just couldn't read because there were too many interruptions. And so anyway, so unfortunately, I'm not going to make the book club discussion, but I'm still going to read this. So this is still on the agenda. And then, let's see what else. Okay. And I'm also still working through Revelation. I'm still behind. I have to work on it today before the study group meets this evening. And again, it's just been my sister's hospitalization, because it takes a lot of intensive study and a lot of time. And I thought I could just stick it on top of my regular life. And that was hard. And then when my regular life became irregular by having to go to the hospital so much, it became even harder. So I'm still behind. I've just been playing catch up the whole time because I got really sick in October when it started. So I missed a couple there. And now I've missed a couple because of my sister's hospitalization. So it's been hard. But man, I think it's so worthwhile. This is so fascinating. And I know I'm not getting half of what I could be getting. I'd like to do it all over again. Maybe during a less stressful point in my life, because just so much here. It's too much to absorb, I think, the first time around. I think you have to do it more than once. So anyway, so I am enjoying that when I can get to it. And I'm still chugging along with this, and I'm just reading it very slowly. But the David McCullough read-along, this was supposed to be finished in October, but they're taking a break November and December. And then the book they're starting in January is the Panama Canal one, which I just read not too long ago, like a year ago or maybe 2 years ago. And I don't want to reread it. So I have time, and I think I'm just going to plug along with this. I'm interested in it. It's just not high priority. But I will tell you, it was really interesting reading about all the corruption in Tammany Hall, because it was just kind of comforting to know that they had really corrupt politics back then too. And somehow we still survived. So I found that part really interesting and kind of strangely comforting. But anyway, so I'm still working on this as well. All right, and then I did finish one book so far in November. It was a Kindle read. It was a D.E. Stevenson book called, I'm going to forget the title because the title bothered me. Still glides the stream. That's the title of it, I think, which the still and the glides next to each other, just because when I first read it, I thought if something's still, it's not moving. But then, anyway, and I guess it's a quote from a poem or a song or something. But anyway, it was a very light romance set in Scotland after World War II. And you know, she writes very charming books. I have to say her characters are not as fully developed as I would like. And it's a little bit of what my mom used to call good housekeeping writing. You know, there's something a little bit amateur about it. And I like D.E. Stevens, but maybe it's uneven. Maybe this book didn't impress me. I haven't read her for a little while. So anyway, it was a nice light read to read right before bed. So it was enjoyable. And now I'm reading something that isn't light, but I'm still enjoying it, and it's a White Fang by Jack London. Oh yeah, I forgot to include something. I'm also doing this thing where I'm trying to read through the states. And just recently in October, when I read that book by Shirley Jackson, We Have Always Lived in the Castle, that it doesn't say explicitly, but she lived for many, many years in Vermont. And it's set in New England, so people assume that she was talking about Vermont. So I put that down as my Vermont read. And then White Fang is in the Klondike in Alaska, so that's going to be my Alaska book. Now, technically, you're not supposed to include books that you've read before, but I haven't read White Fang in 50 years. It's like I'm reading it anew. So I'm including White Fang. White Fang, I mean, I think the sort of brutal nature thing, Jack London really is kind of heavy-handed about that. But aside from that, I'm really enjoying it. So it is pretty dark, though. And then I'm having fun. I'm just starting off. I have actually 2 buddy reads with Mitzi of Mitzi Reads and Writes. And the first is Nicholas Nickleby. Oh, and I have to Voxer her today. So this is fun. I just finished chapter 7. Yeah, I think I just finished chapter 7. I'm doing it both audio and reading. So sometimes when I can listen to it on audio, I do. And then I try to get to the end of a chapter. And then if I don't feel like doing audio, again, I just switch to reading. So that's how I'm getting through that. I'm really starting to get into it. I had a hard time just getting any traction in this book because I started it back in October. But I think I'm going to enjoy it very much. And I'm going to enjoy talking about it with Mitzi. I can tell I'm going to really love that. And then we're also going to read Marian Fay by Anthony Trollope, and I only got to the first chapter. I hope to read some of it today, some more of it today. And just from the first chapter, it was just typical Anthony Trollope. I love that this has illustrations. And, you know, he's setting up the relationships and everything in his usual kind of light, ironic way. And, yeah, I think this is going to be interesting too. I have not talked to Mitzi about this yet. We're just starting off. So, yeah, so that is going to be really fun. And then later this month, for the Faded Pages Book Club, I hope to read Venture to the Interior by Lawrence Vanderpost. This is with Sean D. Standfast. And this looks really interesting. So this is a nonfiction November kind of thing. So this guy was a South African explorer, I think, and maybe journalist. And in the early 20th century, I'm not sure when this was, he ventures into what's now Malawi, 1949. He investigates two little-known regions in Nyasaland, now Malawi. So, all right, so I just think that's going to be an interesting read. I'm looking forward to that. There's probably other things that I'm forgetting. I always do seem to forget at least one thing when I'm doing this. But anyway, so that's my reading update. Now let me talk about the Theology Book Club. Oh, let me get my book. I mean, my little notebook here, because I wrote out what I was going to... I've been thinking about this for a long time. So 2025, I'm thinking of doing like Historathon and dividing it into quarters. And this is something you can come in and out of. Like if there's something you're interested in reading, you can read it with us. And then, you know, if the next thing on the agenda isn't to your taste or whatever, or you don't have time or whatever, then you can bow out. So it's very casual. Just come in. I'll announce each thing beforehand. And this is on my Discord channel. So if you want to join the Discord channel, let me know in the comments and I will send you a link. But for the first quarter of the book club, I want to read the book, The Question of Canon. It's by a guy, Professor Michael Kruger. And I thought he was at St. Andrews in Scotland, but he isn't. He's a professor of Reformed theology in North Carolina, which might be why Jennifer Brooks knew of him. So this is a book that Jennifer Brooks had recommended to Christy Lewis. Christy Lewis and I started to read it at the beginning of last year. We got about halfway, maybe not quite halfway, and then it sort of fell off the radar screen. And I want to finish it. So I want to start from the beginning, because when I first started reading it, I was really suspicious of it. Like, where's this guy coming from? What's he saying? Then as I read it, I realized, oh, this is just real scholarship. And so anyway, I want to go back, reread it, and read it all the way through. And I should say that my aim, at least for 2025, is to be ecumenical. So if you believe in the Trinity, if you believe that the second person of the Trinity was Jesus Christ incarnate, God incarnate, who came to save us from our sins through his passion, death, and resurrection, we have a lot in common and we can talk about it. And so, I'm deliberately making this interdenominational or whatever, ecumenical. So this is the question of canon. This is a Reformed theologian writing this book. So, and I like the idea of learning just how the New Testament was formed. So that's the first read. Now, you can get that on Kindle right now for $9.99. That's how I got it. It's on my Kindle. You can buy it in paperback for $17.94. I think that's from Amazon. I think it might be a couple bucks more from Christian Books. And you probably can find it used. So that's The Question of Canon by Michael Kruger. And then in the second quarter, so the first quarter is January, February, March, and that would be The Question of Canon. And then January, February, March, April, May, June. We'd just be reading an essay. I really want to reread this essay. I read it a long time ago, several years ago now, when I actually took a couple of theology classes online. And it's an essay on the development of Christian doctrine by John Henry Cardinal Newman. Now, he wrote this back in 1845, or at least it was published in 1845, and that is the same year that he converted to Catholicism. So this is probably more of a Catholic understanding. The Catholic Church has really embraced this, though, as their test for how to develop doctrine, but keep it orthodox. So it's a hard to read essay because he writes in such an erudite, theological, high formal way, but it's amazing. He comes up with these tests for how whether doctrine is authentic to the gospel or not. And if you want to buy it published, it's kind of expensive, but it's free on the internet. Like you can get it at the Gutenberg Project. You can get it at, there's a website called, I think it's called the Newman Reader. You can get it there. You can read it there online. It is just an essay. So it's not that long, though it's a long essay. But anyway, that's the thing I want to read for the second quarter of 2025. So the third quarter, I wanted to read some writings from well-known Christians. And at first I was thinking about John Wesley, because I'm kind of interested in learning about the roots of Methodism. But there's someone at the Theology Book Club who's really, really interested in Eberhard Arnold, who started the Bruderhof. And I'm interested in him too, because way back when I first came back to Christianity after a long time being an agnostic, I was introduced to people who read The Plow and who were really into the Bruderhof and that kind of thing. So I did know of him, and he has children too, and his wife also. They all are writers and very involved. They're very much into nonviolence and really living out the gospel in a tangible way through communities, through the Bruderhof. So this person from I think he's from England, who's very interested in Arnold, I think that we're going to read his works. And he suggested a book called Selected Writings, but it's a little bit pricey. It's 18 something, and it's not on Kindle. I don't think it's on Audible or audio. So I'm a little bit nervous about the accessibility of the book, because I don't think it had a huge, printing. There's another book that seems to be maybe easier to get and less expensive and in paperback. And I can't remember that, but it's another collection of his writings. So we might read one or the other, or maybe just some essays. We'll figure that out when we get to the third quarter. But anyway, we're going to focus on Eberhard Arnold, who formed the Bruderhof. He's really interesting. He was this German guy who made it through Nazism. He rejected that, and he kind of outsmarted the Nazis. And he started these communities in England and in the United States. And I think that he's really kind of affiliated or very sympathetic to the Hutterites, which live in community in the western part. They're kind of like the Amish, but in the West. And I had not really thought about them until we went to Montana the summer before this. And there were so many Hutterites on the train. We were taking a train across from Chicago to Glacier National Park, and there were so many Hutterites there. So that was really interesting. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll be interesting. More information is to come on that. And then the fourth quarter, which would be October, November, December, I would like to read the book of Isaiah. And I think we would do that the same way we did the epistles of Paul, where you just read your own Bible, and if you want to get your own commentary or your own study guide or use your own online resources or anything like that, everybody just does their own thing, but we're all reading Isaiah and we're all discussing that. So those are my plans for 2025 for the Theology Book Club. So I'm excited about that. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be really, really interesting. So, okay, so that's it. So I'm already at 17 minutes. So I'm just going to attach the vlog of the walk yesterday. And I know I have tags. I know Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading has tagged me at least twice in the last couple of months. So maybe next Tuesday I'll be able to come up with a tag for Tuesday. Anyway, I hope you are all doing well and happy reading. Take care. Bye. So I'm taking a walk at a local park that has a festival of lights or walk of lights. I guess it starts before Thanksgiving, so they're already putting up all the decorations. for Christmas. It's what, November 11th. So yeah. So it's a pretty big deal though, I guess. I guess it brings in a lot of money for the park. It's a beautiful, beautiful park, and I'm usually here with kids, like these grandparents are with their grandkids. But today I'm just taking a walk. It's Veterans Day. We've had such a weird fall. It's been very warm and dry. We didn't have rain for over 30 days. You can see all the leaves pretty much have fallen. It's like this tree. It's been so strange. It did rain yesterday afternoon and last night, but not even very hard. It wasn't even very much. But look, there's more decorations we're putting up. There's a duck and 2 Canada geese. Usually they used to try to dissuade the geese from settling here. But no, there they are. There's just one duck. There must be another duck somewhere. Hello. So now I'm sitting down in front of this pond. It smells really good here. It smells like evergreen. It smells like pine. Just taking a little rest while I walk around the park. But I noticed they had gourds up for purple martins. That's something I've always wanted to do, but I'm afraid to do it in my own yard because I have 2 monarch butterfly gardens and I hardly ever see any monarchs, and I think it's because my neighbors spray for mosquitoes. And so if I put up a purple martin house, will I be poisoning them if I did that? I don't know. Here, I'll pull back a little bit. There we go. It's very peaceful, though you can still hear noise from the highway. One of the really beautiful areas of the garden is this Korean bell garden. And we have a lot of Koreans in this area that have settled here. And they put in this garden, and it's beautiful. Like this little dragon. Little figures, or rather big figures. There's another section. It's actually quite big, this garden. Let's see, over there. There's another area right there. I made a fountain. There's a little passageway out of this section of the garden. I mean, the sun's in the way. I can't even see my screen. I love the art on the wall here. And here's the bell. See the bell? It's under this kind of pagoda. I don't know what to call it. I'm ignorant, but look at all the intricate woodwork. It's really beautiful. There's a nice gazebo up there. And then I'm gonna walk down this way. There used to be a spring house or something. This was a farm a long time ago. And they converted the spring house to something where they made some kind of education building, because I know at least one of my kids, and maybe more, took little classes here a long time ago. Somebody thought it was a good idea to put up a sculpture of a rhinoceros. So I think this was the education area, is that gray log cabin there. They've built other things since then, a lot more stuff. And then look over here. Like, They're really building something. I've come to the end of the road. This is all mud. That's the other path over there. I'm not walking through that. Huh. So I wonder what they're doing. Interesting. But I really don't want to walk through that mud. It rained yesterday. Maybe I can walk down that way and go back that way. That's what I'll do. Okay, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't get this kind of art in the middle of a huge botanical garden. Like, to me, it looks very urban, and like it might be okay, you know, in a city park or on a, you know, in front of a building with a piazza or something. But why here in the middle of the woods? I don't think it adds anything. To me, it looks ugly, and like it's kind of a jarring contrast. I don't get it. I just love their faces. Oh, look at that guy. I love that. See, and I like this because I think it's very graceful and well suited to the site. You can see some more of the setup for the light show that they're going to have here.